Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. My name is MiAh the King, and when does a joke become a dad joke? When it becomes a parrot. Ha ha, I love that one. Now then, today we're taking a look at a game just released called Broken Roads, a post-apocalyptic isometric RPG taking place in Australia, of all places. Developed by Drop Bear Bytes and published by Versus Evil and Tiny Build. Released not in early access and selling for $35. And you might recognize the publisher Tiny Build from such games as Hello Neighbor and I Am Future. I Am Future being one of the games that I've actually looked at on my channel before. But that's not important. What is important is the quality of this game. So, is it any good? Well, let's find out together. So, basically, this is an isometric RPG game, as I mentioned earlier, which means it comes with the fixins that you would expect. You get to kinda customize your character and then hop in. But what's cool here is along with the look of your character and the skills you get to pick, you also get to customize your story, the lore of your character, where they came from and what's their background. Each of these stories are interesting and boost different stats, giving you a unique buff depending on which background story you select, and it comes into play throughout the game. In my first hour, I saw nothing but references and dialogue options based on the background I had chosen for myself, Hired Gun. But the main story is this. War happened, blew up the world, now it's post-apocalyptic. You're a new person who joins this small town or group of people and you have a job to do. Get to know everyone and help them on their journey. Some big stuff happens, I don't want to spoil it, and basically you and yours go on a journey to discover why that big something happened. Okay, so that's the gist of it without spoilers. Now we'll go into the good and the bad, followed by my final thoughts. Alright? Okay, so up first is the positives. The first thing I really liked was the look of the game, the graphics. There's a good balance here of all the different requisites. Good attention to detail, good color contrast, good lighting, good color choices, and I could keep going. Basically, I just think the game looks really good. It even has proper camera distances and angles to help accentuate how good it looks at certain areas, certain times, certain whatever. Everything looked really good in my opinion. Even the hand-drawn art that pops up for storytelling moments was looking pretty decent. Next up for the positives was the stability. Despite the game looking good and having a lot of stuff here, it still ran really smooth. I didn't experience any bugs or glitches in my playthrough and no crashing or freezing. Everything just ran super smooth, which was just awesome. I was worried it was gonna lag or drop frames or something, but it didn't and it never did. Now obviously this is my experience and you might experience something else, but for me, everything ran really well, which was really nice considering what I was doing and what it looked like. The gameplay is next for my positives, and this one might take a bit. There's a lot to discuss here. So, like most isometric RPGs, you click to move around. Hit a button on your keyboard to light up interesting things around you, to highlight stuff you can click on and whatnot. Pick your dialogue options, turn-based combat, consequences, choices to make, characters to bond with, stats to level up, gear to upgrade, and all the other stuff that you'd expect. Not only does it all make sense and work well, but there's more to the gameplay also. There's a morality tree. I think that's what it's called, and basically it's similar in function to the other isometric RPGs. Instead of like chaotic good or chaotic evil, it's Machiavellianism or nihilistic. These are explained and these will offer you two different things throughout your playthrough. The first is certain dialogue options. Some will be unlocked the more nihilistic you are, some will be locked because you weren't nihilistic enough. And the second thing is they also provide other bonuses like an increase to initiative or critical hit strikes or whatever. This idea not only allows you to give more buffs to your person, but to actually customize them and your playthrough as a specific type of character that you want to play because of the increased choices of dialogue options thanks to these. It's a cool idea, similar to other isometric RPGs, just titled differently and looks differently. I mean, like Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, where being good not only gives you more dialogue options, but skill points and an angel tree that gives you bonuses and new abilities and such. I wish I could comment more on the combat, but I've played almost 2 hours and haven't seen any yet. It's depressing as hell, but from the training they put me through, it looks decent enough, I guess, average. But I cannot comment on the combat so much right now due to lack of playing it. What I will say is that, overall, the gameplay seems pretty legit, and despite the fact that I didn't get into any combat yet, I was still having fun with the game. Everything works the way you want it to and offers you exactly what you're expecting. And I like the idea of it being guns and being turn-based combat. If you're trying to figure out how you can do an isometric RPG with guns, I think that turn-based is probably the best way to do it. The next positive point I'd like to point out is the price tag. When you think of the look and feel of the game, the stability, the voice acting, because there is voice acting, the writing, along with a bunch of other stuff, this game is only selling for $35, and that's pretty awesome. Plus, it's fully finished, running smoothly, so yeah, I can't say it better than that. The price tag was perfect. It's not even perfect. It's actually better than perfect because I expected to pay more for this, at least for this kind of experience. So that's great. Just know you're not getting ripped off if you choose to buy this game. Last but not least for the positives is a combination of a few things. Tutorial mechanics and user interface. The UI is well organized and easy to understand, navigate, and use, which is very much appreciated for a game like this. The tutorial was also simple, easy to understand, and helps you without overwhelming you, and done in a way that conjoins with a limited starter story, which is also appreciated. And then the overall mechanics and controls. Nothing felt awkward or out of place, nothing was confusing, and everything was just pretty easy to figure out. The quests even have hints and ideas where to go or what to do, so you're not constantly floundering around wondering where you're supposed to go or what it is exactly that you're supposed to do, like some isometric RPGs tend to do, which was even more so appreciated here. Okay, so that's all I got for the positives. Next up is the negatives, but before we get into that, I'd like to inform you that small channels like mine, views are the only way that we really get more views. The only way we really grow is if more people see our stuff and decide to watch it. Liking, commenting, and subscribing helps, but what really helps is sharing our content and our channel online. So if any of these things feels like something you wouldn't mind doing to help me grow, especially if you found this video fun or informative, then please would you mind helping me out by doing some of these things I just mentioned. Thank you very much. Now then, on to the negatives. Now, the game isn't perfect, but it's not awful either. But I feel like I'd be doing it a disservice if I didn't mention what I saw wrong with it as well, so please be patient with me and keep in mind some of these things aren't that bad, but I still want to make mention of them. The first thing for the negatives is the overall sound quality. Now, it's not the worst, but it's not the best either. Let me talk about the good first. The ambiance is great. The wind in the distance, the animals, the busy streets, all that's good, right? Sounds good, comes when it needs to, it's not overbearing, great. The effects of the guns sound okay from my limited exposure to them, so average, about average for my limited experience with them. The music is decent enough, I guess. It's kind of forgettable and not really all that great. I mean, if you're looking for Baldur's Gate 3 quality of music, that's not here. And then you've got the voice acting. In some rare cases, it sounds okay. In others, well, it's just okay. I hate to be mean because it sounds like they're giving it their all, but it's just not that good. Most people that you come into contact with that actually have voice actors, or their talent is, sorry, not their talent, their effort here is average or below average. But the worst one for me personally is the narrator. Every time she starts speaking, it just feels like she's stabbing my ears. It pulls me out of my immersion, it irritates me, and it just doesn't fit at all.
You're not even an hour from Bally Hall when you spot a makeshift cart in the road. A man lies motionless on the ground. A sobbing woman cradles his body. Her tone of voice doesn't fit. The quality of her voice doesn't fit. The sound of her voice doesn't fit. It just all feels off. So, I don't know, it sounds like they recorded in a setting that was worse than mine, and I do this in a house full of pets and kids. The next negative for me is the creativity and the lore, the plot, the story, the writing. I mean, the writing isn't bad, as I mentioned earlier, but that's only when you're, like, talking with people, and we're talking about the overall grammar and skill of the sentence being written out in front of you. That's okay, I guess. But the quests are boring and dumb. The lore is lacking. I mean, go check the fence for holes as a quest. Go find this person and tell them something. Or go find a rectangular box. Really? I mean, you couldn't come up with a cooler and more interesting quest than this? A rectangle box is what I gotta go find? Then you've got the lore. No real explanation, no detail, just there was war and now there's hell. Okay, great, I guess. I don't really care if you don't, so whatever. I mean, why should I care if you don't care, right? But the idea of doing this in Australia is really cool, since I have literally zero exposure to anything Australian, so I love the idea of that. But basically, this game isn't really offering anything that new or innovative, doesn't really have a creative idea, and overall, in terms of the limited lore, I'm not interested or invested at all. By the way, if you hear any weird noises in the background, that would be my dog, who will not stop making noise, and I apologize for that profusely. The last negative point I have is the pacing of the game. It moves at a damn slog. Literally every single thing takes forever. Want to go in here? Loading screen. Have a 10-second conversation about leaving? Loading screen. Want to talk to that guy? Well, you gotta wait until literally everyone in your party moves into this exact specific spot, even though you're the one doing the talking. Then you have to wait for them to rotate towards him, and then the conversation starts. And then when you make a decision or something, or someone's talking or an event is happening, you gotta wait for the text to move aside for you to finally click the continue button, or to click the next button, or your next dialogue option, or whatever. And this is for literally everything. I mean, looting that trash can, same thing. Wait until everybody gets into position and rotates towards it. Investigating that plane crash with a little story bit in there, same thing. As I said earlier, I played for almost 2 hours without any combat whatsoever, and that's partly due to how slow everything goes in this game. I mean, hell, in 2 hours, with the game Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, I was already chosen by the angels and fighting demon spawn.
The point is, I was getting bored. Too much talking, too much pointless stuff to explore. Like, yeah, you can explore this town. You can talk to these random NPCs about random useless stuff that means nothing. You can find junk that doesn't sell for lots, but nothing worthwhile, so why bother exploring at all in the beginning? And all of it takes so long, so it takes you even longer to just do anything. Like, it needs to pick up the pace quick, and if it doesn't do it soon, I might just be done playing. Like, that's how irritating it was getting to me. Alright, so that's all the pros and cons I got for this game, that I think are worth mentioning at least. So, what are my final thoughts? Well, honestly, despite the negatives, I think that this game is pretty good. I think it's got a really good base so far. Like, yeah, it's a bit slow and the writing is a bit off and it has some issues, but I can definitely see that this game has some promise to become something amazing and awesome later on as I play it and discover more of what this game has to offer. Like, I'm just scratching the surface here. I love the choices, the consequences. I love that it's an isometric RPG with guns. Hell, I've wanted one of those for a really long time. Now, if I can only get a Star Wars isometric RPG, I could die a happy man. I think this game is worth our time, and I think it's worth its asking price. Just keep in mind going forward that the game starts off really slow, and it is going to take some time before it really starts to pick up, but overall, I like the game, and I can't wait to get back into it. So, my recommendation is to check it out, even if you're just a little bit interested, even if you're just remotely interested just a little bit, I encourage you to check it out, alright? This is a game that does it well, it's put together well, it works well, it works, and it's priced accordingly. Like, definitely check out this game if you're a fan of isometric RPGs. I can't recommend it enough. Alright, everybody? Alright, so that's all the time I got for this video. Thanks so much for watching, with a special thanks to those of you who stuck around till the end. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.